This is page 3 and 4 of the Chapter 7 review for geometry. So numbers 17 through 20, the directions say solve for x, and they tell you that the triangles are similar. So for number 17, they're just turned from each other. So I set up the proportion, I did the cross product, and then I did inverse operations until I solved for x. Number 18, the triangles are flipped from each other. So I set up the proportion from the first triangle and the second triangle, did the cross product. I need to distribute on the left over here, add 144 to both sides, divide both sides by 288, and solve for x. Number 19, this triangle is turned, so I set up my proportion. I did the cross product, so I need to distribute on the left here. Subtract 196 from both sides, divide both sides by 343, and solve for x. For number 20, first I thought they were turned, but they're actually flipped. So I needed to set up my proportion, this one to this one, and this one to this one. Do the distributive over here. Subtract 882 from both sides, divide both sides by 98, and you get x equals 12. Number 21, the directions change. Okay. So basically, I drew an imaginary line down the middle of this triangle, and then I did the left side to the right side, top to bottom, making my numerator and my denominator. So I did 15 over x minus 1, and then for the right side, I did 10 over 6 by subtracting. Do the cross product, which means I need to distribute on the left, add 10 to both sides, divide both sides by 10, and you get x equals 10. Number 22, drew an imaginary line down the middle, did top to bottom and top to bottom, cross product, distribute on the left, add 18 to both sides, divide both sides by 18, and you get x equals 3. Turn it over to page 4. On top of page 4, number 23, drew an imaginary line down the middle. I did top to bottom and top to bottom. Set up my proportion that way on the left side and the right side, distribute on the left. After doing the cross product, subtract 12 from both sides, divide both sides by 72, and you get x equals 4. To get this little piece for number 24, I took the whole length of 42, subtracted the 4x minus 7, which makes this little piece right here, negative 4x plus 35. So that becomes the numerator of the left side. This becomes the denominator. This becomes the numerator of the right side and the denominator of the right side. So when you do the cross product, you have to distribute on both sides of the equal sign. Then I subtracted 16x from both sides and subtracted 700 from both sides, and then divided both sides by negative 96, so I get positive 7. Number 25, draw an imaginary line through the middle of your transversals and your parallel lines, and then you have top to bottom, numerator to denominator, and then do your cross product. Distribute on the left here, add 32 to both sides, divide both sides by 8, you should get x equals 9. All right, number 26, draw your imaginary line. Then you set up your proportion using your left side and your right side, your numerator and denominator, Do your cross product this way, set it equal to your cross product this way, distribute on the left. Then you're going to subtract 6 from both sides and divide both sides by 3. Jumping down to 27. So I drew another imaginary line down the middle and set up my proportion. Top to bottom, numerator to denominator, left side and right side. So I just set it up exactly the way it comes on your parallel lines. And then you do your cross product. Anytime you multiply by 1, you just get what you multiply by. And then on the right, 2 times 2 is 4. Add 8 to both sides, divide both sides by 2, you should get x equals 6. Draw an imaginary line on number 28. So I did, this is my left side, this is my right side, set up my proportion, do the cross product. On the left, you need to distribute, then add 16 to both sides and divide both sides by 64. That gets you x equals 4. Number 29. This one is the angle bisector one. So I drew an imaginary line right down the middle, and then did the bottom to the side, the bottom to the side, set it up in my proportion, did the cross product, distributed on the left, add 8 to both sides, divide both sides by 8, and got x equals 6. And the last one, number 30. This one's the angle bisector. So my imaginary line is right here. This gives me a left side and a right side, numerator and denominator, numerator and denominator. Do the cross product after you set up your proportion. Distribute on the left, add 36 to both sides, divide both sides by 252, and that gets you x equals 3.